The moment my grandfather asked about the Toyota Camry he had given me for graduation, the champagne glass slipped from my hand and shattered across the marble floor of his estate. That single question unraveled 5 years of lies, and what happened next changed everything. My name is Anya, and this is the story of how I took back what was mine. The Chicago winter had been brutal that morning, the kind of cold that cut through your bones and made you question every life choice that led you to the Midwest. I stood at the bus stop on North Michigan Avenue, my thin coat doing absolutely nothing against the wind whipping off Lake Michigan. Sleet pelted my face, and my feet were already numb in my worn boots that had seen better days 3 winters ago. Around me, other commuters huddled together, their breath creating clouds of vapor in the freezing air. I checked my phone for the third time. The bus was late, of course. I had an urgent meeting at the advertising agency where I worked, a meeting I absolutely could not miss. My boss had made it clear that being late again would have consequences. I pulled my coat tighter and tried to ignore the luxury cars streaming past, their drivers warm and dry inside their heated leather seats. That's when I saw it. The black Lexus SUV with the vanity plate that read, Chloe 2, my half-sister's car, or rather, the car that should have been mine. It came barreling down the street, hitting a massive slush puddle at full speed. I didn't even have time to move before the wave of dirty, icy water hit me full force, soaking me from head to toe. Through the tinted window, I saw her. Chloe, her perfectly highlighted blonde hair bouncing as she laughed with her friends in the passenger seats. She actually honked the horn as she passed, a cheerful little beep that felt like a slap across my face. I stood there, dripping, shaking with cold and something else, something that had been building for 5 years. Rage. Pure, undiluted rage. The other people at the bus stop looked at me with that mixture of pity and embarrassment that I had become so familiar with. An older woman offered me some tissues from her purse. I took them, mumbling thanks, but inside I was screaming. That car, that beautiful, reliable Toyota Camry that Chloe drove like it was her birthright, had been a graduation gift from my grandfather. For me, not for her. I had seen it happen so many times over the past 5 years. Chloe driving past me at bus stops, at the grocery store, outside my apartment building. Each time, she would wave or honk, her smile suggesting she had no idea that the vehicle she was driving had been intended for me. But she had to know. She had to. By the time I made it to the office, I was 40 minutes late and looked like I had swum to work. My supervisor, Marcus, didn't even let me explain. He just shook his head and told me this was going on my permanent record. My coworkers tried not to stare as I dripped my way to my cubicle, but I caught the looks, the whispers. Poor Anya. Can't even afford a car. Poor Anya. Always showing up looking like something the cat dragged in. I was trying to dry off with paper towels from the bathroom when my phone rang. Vivian, my stepmother. I considered not answering, but years of conditioning made my finger hit the accept button almost automatically. Anya, darling. Her voice dripped with that false sweetness she always used with me. Chloe needs money for a new dress for your grandfather's New Year's Eve party. Something appropriate for the occasion. Could you transfer her about $800? I know you just got your Christmas bonus. I stared at my computer screen, at the spreadsheet of overdue bills that seemed to grow longer every month. My Christmas bonus had already been earmarked for rent, for the student loans that never seemed to get smaller, for the credit card debt I had accumulated just trying to survive in this expensive city. I'll see what I can do. I heard myself say, the same words I always said. Wonderful. You're such a good sister. Chloe is so lucky to have you. Vivian hung up before I could respond. I sat in my cubicle, surrounded by the evidence of my barely functioning life, and something crystallized in my mind. How much longer could I keep doing this? How much longer could I keep sacrificing everything while Chloe lived the life that should have been partly mine? The weeks leading up to New Year's Eve passed in a blur of frozen bus rides, late nights at the office, and constant requests for money from Vivian. Send money for Chloe's sorority dues. Send money for Chloe's spring break trip. Send money for Chloe's car insurance. That last one was particularly galling. I was helping pay insurance on the car that should have been mine, the car I watched drive past me every few days as I stood freezing at various bus stops around Chicago. My father, Liam, never called me directly anymore. All communication came through Vivian, as if I was too unimportant to warrant his attention. The few times I had tried to bring up the car situation years ago, he had shut me down immediately. Your grandfather wanted Chloe to have better opportunities, he had said. You understand, don't you? You're more practical. You don't need a car living in the city. But I did need a car. I needed it desperately. I needed the freedom it would have given me, the time I would have saved, the dignity of not arriving at work soaked and frozen. More than that, I needed to have been asked. I needed someone to have considered my needs as important as Chloe's wants. My grandfather, Douglas, was a force of nature even at 78. He had built a real estate empire from nothing, and he ruled his family with the same iron will he had used to build his business. He lived in a sprawling estate in Greenwich, Connecticut, the kind of old money enclave where property values started at several million and went up from there. I had been close to him once, before my mother died, before my father remarried, before everything changed. The invitation to his New Year's Eve party came in the mail, a heavy cream-colored card with embossed gold lettering. It was the social event of the year for his circle, a chance for all the important families in the area to see and be seen. I almost didn't go. I could barely afford the train ticket from Chicago to Connecticut, let alone something appropriate to wear to such an affair. But something made me buy that ticket. Maybe it was the memory of the grandfather who had once called me his little fighter, who had promised me that hard work and honesty would always be rewarded. Maybe it was just the anger that had been building for 5 years, looking for an outlet. I arrived at the estate on New Year's Eve afternoon. The house looked like something out of a magazine, all stone and ivy and old-world elegance. Cars lined the circular driveway, expensive vehicles that cost more than I made in a year. And there, parked prominently near the front entrance, was the black Lexus SUV, Chloe's car, my car. I walked past it, running my hand along the hood. It was warm, recently driven. Through the window, I could see the interior was immaculate, all leather and modern technology. The little tree air freshener hanging from the rearview mirror had Chloe's initials on it. I felt that familiar rage bubble up again. Inside, the house was transformed into a winter wonderland. Crystal chandeliers sparkled overhead, reflecting off the ice sculptures strategically placed around the rooms. A jazz quartet played softly in the corner of the main ballroom. People in evening wear circulated with champagne flutes, their laughter and conversation creating a pleasant buzz. This was the world Chloe had grown up in, the world I had been pushed out of after my mother's death. I spotted my family immediately. Liam looked distinguished in his tuxedo, his hair graying at the temples in a way that made him look sophisticated rather than old. Vivian wore a dress that probably cost more than my monthly rent, her jewelry catching the light with every movement. And Chloe, 22 years old and glowing with youth and privilege, stood at the center of a group of young people, holding court in a dress that I recognized from a designer boutique window. The dress I had helped pay for. I had bought my dress at a thrift store, a simple black number that was presentable but nothing special. Next to Chloe's sparkle, I felt like a shadow. I always felt like a shadow around them. Anya, Vivian's voice carried across the room. You made it. How was the train ride? Not, we missed you, or we're so glad you're here. Just an acknowledgement that I had managed to arrive at all. I made my way over to them, acutely aware of the eyes following me, the whispers. That's Douglas's other granddaughter, the one who lives in Chicago, the one who takes the bus. Chloe hugged me, a cloud of expensive perfume enveloping us both. Oh my God, Anya, I love your dress. Vintage is so in right now. The compliment felt like an insult, a reminder that while her dress was designer and new, mine was secondhand and old. Thanks, I managed. Your dress is beautiful. Isn't it? Anya helped me get it. Chloe said this to her friends, and I saw their eyes slide over me with new understanding. Oh, that kind of sister. The one who pays for things. I excused myself to get a drink, needing space from the suffocating perfection of my family. The bartender poured me a generous glass of champagne, and I found a quiet corner to observe the party. I watched Chloe laugh and dance, watched Liam shake hands with important people, watched Vivian work the room like the social climber she was. This was their world, and I was just a visitor. That's when my grandfather found me. Anya, my dear girl. His voice was warm, genuine. He pulled me into a hug that smelled like cigars and expensive cologne, familiar and comforting. I'm so glad you came. Let me look at you. He held me at arm's length, his sharp eyes taking in my bargain dress, my worn shoes, the way I held myself like I was trying to take up as little space as possible. You look tired, he said bluntly. That was Douglas. No sugarcoating. That job of yours working you too hard? It's fine, Grandpa. Just busy. He didn't look convinced. And how's that Toyota Camry I got you for graduation? Still running well? That was a good, reliable car. Should last you years. The champagne glass fell from my hand. It seemed to fall in slow motion, tumbling through the air before exploding against the marble floor in a spectacular crash. The jazz quartet stopped playing. Conversations halted mid-sentence. Every eye in the room turned to look at me. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't process what he had just said. What Toyota? My voice came out as a whisper. My grandfather's face changed. The warmth drained away, replaced by something cold and dangerous. I had seen that look before, years ago, when a business partner had tried to cheat him. It was the look of a man who had just realized he had been deceived. Across the room, I saw Liam's face go pale. Vivian's hand flew to her throat. Chloe, who had been in the middle of a story, fell silent, her face suddenly uncertain. The Toyota Camry, my grandfather repeated, his voice carrying across the now silent room. The one I purchased for you 5 years ago when you graduated from Northwestern. The one I had registered in your name. The one I paid to have maintained at the dealership. That Toyota Camry. The room spun. 5 years. 5 years of taking the bus in Chicago winters. 5 years of being late to work, of arriving soaked and frozen, of missing opportunities because I couldn't get places on time. 5 years of watching Chloe drive past me in a car that had been mine. "I don't have a car, Grandpa," I said, and my voice was stronger now, clearer. "I've never had a car. I take the bus." I watched my father and Vivian exchange a look, that married couple telepathy that spoke volumes. Chloe's eyes were wide, darting between her parents and me. The crowd of party guests had formed a circle around us now, sensing drama, drawn to it like moths to a flame. "Liam," my grandfather's voice could have cut glass. "Would you care to explain?" My father stepped forward, his hands raised in a placating gesture. "Dad, there's been a misunderstanding. Anya didn't need a car. She lives in the city, right downtown. Parking is expensive, insurance is expensive. It would have been a burden on her. We thought Chloe could use it more. For school, for her activities." "You thought?" The words hung in the air like an accusation. "Did you ask Anya what she thought?" Silence. "Did you explain to Anya that you were giving away her graduation gift?" More silence. Vivian tried to help. Her voice had that reasonable, patient tone that made you feel like you were being difficult for having feelings. "Douglas, really, this is making a scene. Anya never said she wanted the car. She's been fine taking public transportation. And Chloe needed it for her opportunities. She's involved in so many activities, she couldn't possibly manage without reliable transportation." Something inside me snapped. Maybe it was the word opportunities. Maybe it was the implication that I had been fine when I had spent 5 years struggling. Maybe it was just 5 years of biting my tongue finally finding its release. Fine? My voice was loud, louder than I had ever spoken to them. "You think I've been fine? Do you have any idea what my life has been like?" I turned to Chloe, who was trying to disappear into her group of friends. How many times have you driven past me at bus stops? How many times have you seen me standing in the rain, in the snow, soaking wet, and you've honked that horn and waved like it was all some funny joke?" "I didn't know," Chloe stammered. "Mom and Dad said the car was mine. They said Grandpa bought it for me." "Liar." The word came out harsh, sharp. "You knew. You had to know. That car was registered in my name. You saw the documents. You had to have seen them when you got the insurance, when you got the registration renewed." I watched the color drain from her face, watched the guilt flicker across her expression before she tried to hide it. She had known. Of course she had known. My grandfather's voice cut through the tension. "Liam, Vivian, Chloe, my office. Now." He looked at me. "Anya, you too." The walk to his office felt like a funeral procession. The party guests parted to let us through, their faces a mixture of shock and poorly concealed excitement. This would be the gossip of the season. The great Douglas Harrington's family imploding at his own New Year's Eve party. The office was all dark wood and leather, the smell of old books and power. My grandfather closed the door with a decisive click and turned to face my father. "Explain, now." Liam tried his reasonable voice, the one he used in business negotiations. "Dad, like I said, it was a practical decision. Anya was living in the city. She didn't need a car. Chloe was still in school, she had so many commitments. We thought we were making the best choice for both girls." "You thought?" My grandfather walked to his desk and pulled out a thick folder. "So you forged Anya's signature on the title transfer documents. You lied to the DMV. You committed fraud." The word hung in the air like a bomb. "Fraud?" Vivian's voice was shrill. "That's a bit dramatic, Douglas. It was a family matter." "It was theft. It was forgery. It was a crime." My grandfather opened the folder, spreading documents across his desk. "I may be old, but I'm not stupid. When I started getting maintenance bills for a car that should have been in Chicago but was clearly being serviced in Connecticut, I started asking questions. Did you think I wouldn't notice? Did you think I wouldn't check?" He pulled out more papers, his voice cold with controlled rage. "Transfer documents with a signature that clearly isn't Anya's. Registration renewals filed under false pretenses. And this." He held up a small recording device. "A conversation between you and Vivian, discussing how you would handle it if Anya ever asked about the car. How you would tell her she had signed it over to Chloe because she didn't need it." I felt dizzy. They had planned this. It hadn't been some spur-of-the-moment decision. They had deliberately, systematically stolen from me and then created a cover story in case I ever questioned it. "You recorded us?" Liam's face was red now, anger replacing shock. "That's illegal. It's my house. I can record whoever I want in my own home." My grandfather's smile was cold. "And before you try to play the victim, Liam, remember that I have evidence of other irregularities in your business dealings. The clients you've been overcharging. The contracts you've been padding. Should I continue?" The room went silent. I looked at my father and saw him the way my grandfather must see him. A man who had spent years cutting corners, taking shortcuts, convinced that the rules didn't apply to him. "What do you want?" Vivian's voice was small now, defeated. "I want the car returned to Anya. Today. with a full tank of gas and a sincere apology. I want the title properly transferred back to her name, which should be easy since it was never legally transferred in the first place. And I want you to pay her back for every dime she has sent to support Chloe over the past 5 years. That's ridiculous, Vivian protested. Anya wanted to help her sister. Did she? My grandfather looked at me. Did you want to send money for Chloe's dresses and vacations and sorority dues while you struggled to pay rent? I thought about all those phone calls, all those requests that felt like orders. I thought about choosing between groceries and sending Chloe money for things she didn't need. I thought about the guilt I felt every time I considered saying no. No, I whispered, then louder. No, I didn't want to. I did it because I felt like I had to. Because Vivian would call and make it sound like if I didn't help, I was a terrible sister. Because Dad would be disappointed in me. Because I thought if I just helped enough, sacrificed enough, you would finally see me as part of the family. The words hung in the air, raw and honest. Chloe was crying now, mascara running down her face. But I felt no sympathy. She had cried before, when she wanted something, when she wanted to get her way. Chloe's tears were a tool, not a genuine emotion. My grandfather continued, "You have 24 hours to return the car to Anya and complete the paperwork. If you don't, I will report the fraud to the police. I will ensure that this story reaches everyone in our social circle. And Liam, I will personally see to it that your business partners know exactly the kind of man you are." "You wouldn't," Liam said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Try me." The silence that followed was absolute. Finally, Vivian spoke, her voice tight with barely controlled rage. "Fine. Chloe will return the car tomorrow." "Today," my grandfather corrected. "Before midnight. Before the new year. I want this resolved now." We filed out of the office in silence. The party was still going on, but the energy had changed. Everyone knew something had happened, even if they didn't know the details. I saw the curious glances, the whispered conversations. I went to the guest room that had always been mine when I visited, needing space to process what had just happened. My hands were shaking. My grandfather had just upended my entire family dynamic in the space of 15 minutes. Part of me felt vindicated. Another part felt terrified about what came next. There was a knock on the door. Chloe stood there, still in her designer dress, but looking small and uncertain. "Anya, I'm sorry," she said, and for once, her voice didn't sound manipulative. She sounded genuinely shaken. "I really didn't know at first, but you're right. Later, when I was older, I saw the documents. I saw your name. And I didn't want to give it up. I liked having the car. I liked the freedom it gave me. And Mom and Dad said it was fine, that you didn't need it, that you preferred the bus." "Did you really think I preferred standing in a blizzard waiting for a bus that might never come?" I asked. "Did you really think I enjoyed showing up to work soaking wet and late, or did you just not care?" She flinched. "I didn't think about it that way. I thought you were fine. Everyone keeps saying that I was fine, but no one ever asked me if I was fine. No one cared enough to check." I looked at her, this girl who had everything handed to her while I scraped by. "You're 22 years old, Chloe. You're not a child. You knew what you were doing was wrong, and you did it anyway because it was convenient." She left without another word, and I lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand how my life had just changed so completely in one evening. Just before midnight, I heard the sound of a car engine outside. I looked out the window and saw the black Lexus SUV parked in the driveway, Chloe climbing out with an overnight bag. She had called a friend to pick her up. The car sat there, dark and silent, waiting for me. I went downstairs and found my grandfather in his study, a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Thank you," I said simply. He gestured for me to sit. "I should have checked on you sooner, Anya. After your mother died, I let Liam make decisions about your life because I thought he knew best. I was wrong. I should have been more involved. I should have made sure you were taken care of." "You couldn't have known." "I should have. That's what family does. They pay attention. They care." He pulled out another folder, this one even thicker. "There's something else you need to know. Your grandmother, my wife, she set up a trust fund for you before she died. A significant trust fund. It was supposed to be given to you when you turned 25. I was 27 now. Liam was the executor. He was supposed to transfer control to you 2 years ago. He never did. He's been using the fund to support his lifestyle, telling himself he would pay it back eventually. The hits just kept coming. My father had not only stolen my car, he had stolen my inheritance." "How much?" I asked. "With interest and investment growth over the years, about $2.8 million. The room spun. $2.8 million. While I had been taking the bus and eating ramen and sending money to Chloe, I had been a millionaire and no one told me. "I'm transferring control of the trust to you immediately." My grandfather continued. "I've also removed Liam and Vivian from my will. Everything will go to you when I die, which hopefully won't be for a very long time, but I want you to know. You are my heir. You are my family, and I'm sorry I didn't make that clear sooner." I couldn't speak. Tears were running down my face, tears of rage and relief and grief for all the years I had lost. "Also," he added, his voice taking on a harder edge, "my lawyers will be sending notice to Liam and Vivian tomorrow. Any attempt to contact you for money, any harassment, any attempt to manipulate you will result in legal action. You are free of them, Anya. Completely free." The next morning, I drove the Toyota Camry back to Chicago. It handled beautifully, smooth and responsive. I had the windows down despite the cold, music blasting, feeling something I hadn't felt in years: freedom, joy, the sense that my life was finally, actually mine. The trust fund transfer was completed within a week. I quit my job at the advertising agency, the job where I had been overlooked and undervalued. I found a better apartment, one with a parking space. I paid off all my debts. For the first time in my adult life, I could breathe without the constant weight of financial stress crushing me. Liam and Vivian tried to reach out, of course. First came the apologetic messages, then the angry ones, accusing me of turning my grandfather against them. Then the desperate ones, when they realized my grandfather had been serious about cutting them off financially. I blocked their numbers. I blocked Chloe's number too. I was done being their safety net, their piggy bank, their scapegoat. 6 months later, I was sitting in my new apartment, a beautiful loft in a renovated warehouse with exposed brick and huge windows, when I got an email from an unknown address. It was from Chloe. She had gotten a job, she wrote. A real job, not an internship or volunteer position. She was learning what it meant to work for things instead of having them handed to her. She was sorry. She was ashamed. She hoped someday I might forgive her. I read the email twice and then deleted it. Maybe someday I would be ready to forgive, but not today. Today, I was still healing, still learning to value myself the way I should have been valued all along. The Toyota Camry turned out to be a wonderful car, reliable and sturdy just like my grandfather had promised. But more than that, it was a symbol. Every time I got in it, every time I turned the key and felt the engine roar to life, I remembered that I had worth, that I deserved good things, that I was not, and had never been, the supporting character in someone else's story. I was the main character in my own life, and I was finally ready to start living it.